you know, like on the... It's like an idea. It's on the tip of someone's tongue. He's been around. He's done some good best ofs against formidable pro players, but he hasn't quite made his permanent mark on the StarCraft 2 European scene, so he's still waiting to do that. But he's good. See how he fares up against, I guess what is, now we can kind of confidently say a mech player. In top left, as the Green Terran, it is InZaNe. In the bottom right, as the Red Zerg, he is Starbuck. I suppose a big reason why people would recognize the name is that people like Battlestar Galactica. People like Starbucks. Also some other thing that I'm sure it's a name of, but I don't know. I don't recall what he said is the inspiration behind his name, but believe it or not, I want to say it's the third thing that I don't even remember exists. I don't believe he's a fan of this series, or of Starbucks in particular. Alrighty, so we have normal openers. Zane, a mech player, not showing us too many early cheesy builds, but he does certainly have Hellbats. He's got Hellbats, and he's got Battlecruisers. What else does Terran need, really? Am I right, guys? Am I right? Apollo's a lover, not a fighter. SCV Scout. I don't think he did this in the second game versus his last Zerg opponent, so this might just be like, I'm not sure what you're playing like, SCV Scout. Or did he? I don't remember. Whatever. Anyways, he does it again in the first game. And reveals, hey, nothing sneaky going down here. He does not like using his SCV to harass the third base. I love it. I think it's very useful. The 125 minerals going into engineering bay only messes up your build a little bit. And most of the time, you can get it up to like 90% health. Easy peasy. As a Zerg player doesn't realize, especially with the way that InZaNe uses SCV, maybe they don't realize that that has gone to the third base. But it also can sometimes look really stupid if they have another option with third base anyways. On this map, we do usually see the vertical pattern of expanding even like into their opponent's more triangle kind of horizontal expansion. You know, Terrans generally go this way, and then Terrans or Zerg players go up here, and then suddenly they're battling it out over here, and you're like, what the hell? Why would you ever want this? But apparently that's how people do. Starbuck does not go for the Overlord speed. Not that it did Bassett a whole lot of good. He scouted the armory just a little bit late. There's the, you know, cleverness by InZaNe for sure, but also just not being thorough, not being well timed with the first Overlord scout from Bassett. And then versus the battlecruiser thing, he scouted it, but his defense was fine. His response to it was the wrong response. So it's not like you need to get Overlord speed, but I'm surprised that Starbuck doesn't go for it just because of how often players do go for battlecruisers. Now this gets awkward. This is a lot of lanes to get in here. Wrap around those first two Hellions, a nice kill, get 3 SCVs, maybe even more on the natural base. There's a couple more still running through here. But a nice coincidental timing on the Hellions popping out means that it's enough to deal with it. But unfortunately, there's talking up Overlord speed and how some players are still going for it. They're still really quite wary of the battlecruiser shenanigans. You don't need Overlord speed if you have a Ling run in and see a Fusion Core. Who'd have thunk it? So Fusion Core is going to finish up here, and the battlecruiser is going to take a long time to build, so plenty of time for Starbuck to react. In fact, he could have pushed off the Roach one a little bit. He could have pushed off the Queens a little bit. Unless he thought it was an armory. It's weirdly possible he thought it was an armory. So this could be big, guys. Hellion run by, though, is biggest right now. 10, 11, 12, 13. Still four Hellions, man. That's a lot of drone kills. Oh, no. Oh, geez. Oh, lordy. Okay, that is a fantastic Hellion run by. 16 drones. The entire natural just died there. Oh my god. To the point I was gonna bring up. Thank you, Ajoaquin, for the Twitch Pame Sib. And I'm sorry, I missed Armand471 for the 2 months. So thank you both very much. The point I was gonna talk about was that if he thought it was an armory attack, then he's gonna kind of overcommit, and to the wrong units actually. But you know, I brought up that battle cruisers usually do come with an armory. I suppose it was just a question of when he was going to build his army, and whether this is a reaction to that, and he's already going to build them, and now he's like, well, hell, I lost so many drones, they have to like all in, or if he was already planning to all in, is a bit of a question mark. But this all in is not well supported. The battle cruiser revealed itself. It was uncertain. If it was uncertain, but there were plenty of queens. That means they're not on the other side of the map, but the teleport was used offensively, so the battle cruiser can't come back and help out here. This could be a huge mistake by InZaNe. He's not going to get too much more with the battle cruiser on the offensive. There's not too much more to get. This is all about surviving right here, right now. If the third CC finishes, that could be really big in terms of coming back and cementing the victory for InZaNe, but it's not going to finish. It's canceled. Supply was going to go down. SCVs were used to block the ramp, so extra time could be bought for the battle cruiser to come back down here. Widow mines are the best option. You can't swap that over to a factory. It would have been an open wall and would have taken way too much time. So the widow mines hopefully get a good shot or two. But so many SCVs are going to go down here as InZaNe did not realize Starbuck was going for the all-in. And Starbuck's all-in ends up being the absolute correct call. Even after losing so many drones, he is dealing just as much damage and then some. The battlecruiser can still clean things up. We're still on 2 orbitals. Yes, it's just floating over. And the battlecruisers now, 2 of them could maybe do some significant counter damage, but oh man, the economy is an absolute ruin. The Lings come in here to clean up every single last SCV. No more Hellions live here, and that's one of the big reasons why these all-ins actually continue to end the game. If it was just roaches, SCVs run around, they dodge and weave, eventually the battlecruiser battle cruiser cleans things up, and they're still left with like 15 SCVs. Not a lot, but it's still something to work with. When Lings are able to pile through because you lose the Hellions at one point or another, and he lost them right quick in this version, in this game, you don't have anything to stop that Ling flood. And even with battlecruisers having the kind of high DPS that they do have, lots of shots coming out quickly, they still take a hell of a long time to clean up Lings. And then, on top of it all, you don't have any minerals but more Hellions, so 2 thankfully are out to cover the main base. You don't have a lot to cover the natural, and you can't send them out on an expedition to deal more damage as Hellbats because you need them back here to defend. This game has been turned completely upside down as Starbuck going for that all-in worked out really, really well. All of his queens have transfused energy out the Wild Zoo. Not that it stops the Amato, but this is not a good game for InZaNe, who probably thought that everything was looking his way after the Hellions ran by. And if he had his battlecruiser back at home scouting the all-in, it would have been his game. But that was a devastating choice to teleport offensively. Looking for whatever he can possibly grab, but these queens have all their crew tumors spread. They're easy access to the main, natural, and third base. There's not even a fourth to try and need to protect. The worker count is now laughable. 9 workers for InZaNe to the 49 of Starbuck. Even though Starbuck went down 20 drones at one point, that didn't last very long. And not missing any transfuse. No extra queens for no reason going down here. Starbuck, how in the world does he lose this game? If the third CC was up and running and the command center was on the low ground, I actually think there's a chance. But that is so much more mining what's happening here. And InZaNe even moves out thinking that Lings are back defensively, and they're absolutely not. With good control on the ramp and a choke, he would have been able to take out these Lings and it would have maybe been a win for him. But instead, the Lings get those surrounds, find them up against a corner, up against a wall, and easy peasy clean up there. Left over with a ton of Lings to continue denying this natural, and it's a slow build up to 6 Hellions. 6 being the count that you really feel comfortable against this amount of Lings. This is game. This is not happening. This is totally game. Again, if InZaNe had triple SCV production, triple mule, mining is natural, then he might be able to afford some Cyclones. In which case, the Spire would not end the game, but even letting the Lings in, or just, I mean, he tried topping off the factory. There's an open wall. So InZaNe's back down to 6 workers. This is not going to work out. Battlecruisers were his last hope, and the Queen so far have been dealing with them. Now Corruptors will deal with them for sure. Oof. Tough game here. Tough game. GG. Starbuck comes out victorious even after letting those Hellions in. And we go on to game number 2. It is just a best of 3, but in the winner's bracket, they always have that second chance down below. MVP came back from a similar position. Did he? What game is that? Usually what makes the comeback for Terrans is triple mule, so the 3rd CC lived, and having drops available. Or if it was TVT, you just Hellbat dropped another person. That was a weird time, guys. That was an MVP, still ended up winning the... Oh, back in the day, y'all. Here's a history lesson for you. Back in the day... 2013? 14, maybe? The WCS regions, of which they're still trying to push the term WCS Korea, which is still technically what it's called, but they just gave up and everyone calls it GSL. Not only had its seasons, but they had... what do we call them? Like, grand tournaments in between each season. So, like, everyone would come together for... Maybe it's better to put it this way. So you have your regular season, then you have the championships of that season, they crown the champion of the season. Oh, it's so great. Then you had another championship right after, basically, and people ended up saying they didn't like it because it was just too much. Oh, this is the best thing. No, this is the best thing. No, wait, this is the best thing. So eventually they got rid of that system. But he won one of those, even when he was kind of getting worse and worse health-wise and performance-wise, because TVT was at such a stupid meta. Hellbats were different, Blue Flame was different, and he literally just hell-dropped on top of each other the entire time. I believe it was Hellbats could fit 4 in a medevac, and I want to say Blue Flame did more damage or something along those lines. I'm pretty sure it was 2 things, not just the one, but 4 Hellbats and a medevac did make it really dumb. So, that's why you have 2 Hellbats fitting in now. The more you know. Alright, history lesson aside, in the bottom left on Automaton, it is the Green Terran InZaNe. In the top right is the Red Zerg, he is Starbuck. And with the decisive all in there, he made that game look easy. It is seriously the difference of InZaNe figuring that out. And I don't know how it would, but, well, for instance, if the Hellions don't go for the drones and Starbuck's plan the entire time was to do an all in, then they see the roaches and the teleport doesn't happen. And in fact, Starbuck probably has to have a backup plan if it's scouted that quickly. Or... some Hellions survive, like one survives and sees them pop out, sees a 3rd base with no drones and goes, wait a second here. It's kind of the only ways that he would be able to know that it was on the way. But the other thing is that if he had taken 20 seconds, maybe less, to not teleport his battlecruiser in fear of, well, what could the Zerg do after it killed so many drones, then that also is a game that is still going on. Not necessarily with anyone losing or winning, you know, obviously, but it's still going on. So, you know, it feels bad. Usually it is in the Terran's best interest to teleport immediately, but not that game. So does InZaNe do it again on this map? And this is a very popular map for it, more so than the other map, in fact. Or does he figure that Starbuck has a strong answer to it? I don't know. If I was InZaNe, I would maybe do it again, just because I'd be like, well, this time I'm not going to die to an all-in. And hopefully I still get like 12 drones killed, right? Like, there's it wasn't so much a this had no chance whatsoever macro game, right? Where you kind of just start to think of other ideas of how to win, as much as it was a cheeky all-in that just worked really well against you, so. And it's, as much as battlecruisers are kind of like the funny, like almost meme-y thing, right? Like people still make fun of them despite their presence in the meta. They are powerful as far as a macro build goes. As long as you're not being totally outclassed by the Zerg. And your teleport micro's on point, I guess. So we'll see what his decision is. There's a starport. Starbuck, I was commenting last game that he doesn't bother going for Overlord speed, and that could maybe be a problem. That Roach Warren last game was... not... I mean, it was probably, right? It was for the all-in. He wanted to do that. That was a good answer. Fusion Core again. But it also, coincidentally, would have helped against a Hellbat attack, so he would have been good to go, and in fact would have welcomed the Hellbat attack because his Roaches would have been so well prepared, and they would have slapped it down and immediately countered. So, if he goes for a quick Roach Warren again, it could be another attack, but with the lair on the way as well, I'm thinking it is just defensive. So if you get Roaches, you kind of give yourself an excuse not to, like, depend on that scout. Because we're also assuming that, like, any Zerg player getting a decent number of Queens. And maybe even some default Spore Crawlers, because, yeah, it's, you know, if it's not bad because it's Banshees, am I right? Or Liberators. The Starbuck has only scouted the natural being walled in a really weird way. Barracks on front. As well as the factory. Not gotten any farther back, and is not currently... capable of even doing so. No Overlord to Suicide, no Lings being sent across the map to get that nice scout. Well, this one's gonna go for it. He's gone for the gold, y'all. He's going for it. He's going the distance. Okay, well. MVP versus Tefl. I thought that's because he had drops, though. Well, anyways, doesn't matter. That's a game I really don't remember. That's a name I barely remembered. Tefl, man, that's a throwback. So, Starbuck doesn't have a lot of anti-battlecruiser presence, and that's like the one thing I'm worried about. He does definitely have control over the Hellions and any potential Hellbat attacks, which we're not going to have a combination of the two. No double whammy. Viking here maybe even can kind of be a little like, oh, so I guess he's not doing battlecruisers? Because I don't think you get a Viking first very often. This feels almost especially, oh, don't worry about it, I'm not doing battlecruisers. But is Starbuck really falling for it? The thing is, Starbuck's not responding to the unknown anyways, really. The ground unknown, yes. The air unknown, no. He's not got any extra Queens or even that many Spore Crawlers. So it feels like a very dangerous game to be playing, but we'll see. Teleport happened immediately. It's going to find the main base with the one Spore Crawler that Starbuck did bother to make. Queen instantly Yamato down, but there's the scouts on the Roaches. Nope, that was a Ling. The Roaches are not seen quite yet. There they are. There they go. Going across the map, but InZaNe, he was able to get his defensive tank out in time. So very, very different game here. In fact, Starbuck might be punished for doing this build. The change up is here is that he went for Roach speed, but still nothing else came out, and he only went up to 51 drones. And Zane's also going to immediately bring his Starbuck back. Jesus. Well, sure, she's in the pilot seat, I guess. Gonna immediately bring back the battlecruiser, which last game it was kind of like a him and a han, okay, maybe, and now this will be able to help out. But the two tanks in the front lines, the double layering of walls here that aren't quite complete but are still holding a lot of the army back from hitting the tanks is very good. And while the natural could go down, the third CC is already done. And it shouldn't be the case where as many SCVs die, but the natural does look a little tasty. The wall is broken down, the tanks are killed, the bunker still has 4 Marines dealing damage, the battlecruiser comes back, even the Viking on the low ground means that DPS consistent, very consistent DPS, though not very high, ends up clearing out what was a ton of Zerg units, but it took forever for them to break through everything. Solid like 30 seconds here between the supply depots, more supply depots, bunkers, tanks, and then whatever else is laid behind. So 13 SCVs, totally manageable for a Terran player. But maybe also totally, not totally out of the game here for Starbuck. 13 SCVs is usually not what you want. We're looking for 20 and above, because 20 is still a mark where the Terran player can certainly make a comeback. But what was the follow-up like behind this? We did have more units made as opposed to just going right into drones, which is going to not be helpful. These basically will not do anything, even though the 3rd CC is a little barren right now. They're not finding it quick enough, so that should be able to mine. And yeah, instead of 20 extra drones, he has maybe 10 roaches that can find in a CV. Wow, I was running 10 roaches. I'm great at this. And InZane's gonna try and make sure that doesn't happen. That even though Starbuck was a little late to it, he's gonna make sure it doesn't happen at all. It's even better. But forced to teleport back because the SCVs were at the 3rd base and the roaches did make their way around. That kind of sucks. I guess the InZane figured they couldn't do anything like I did, but they ended up finding like 7 SCVs. So Starbuck brings back a pretty important attack there. That was gonna be 2 battle cruisers on top of a building hatchery without any creep spread, so I mean, I don't know if it can live anyways, but we'll see. So the 4th base finally done. We had 1 extra queen build, and now most importantly we had the spire underway. That was his follow-up choice. Initially gonna go for mutas, but I'm not so sure he's gonna stick on mutas. We do have cyclones on the way for Starbuck, which we saw do very well against Bassett's Corruptors. They also do very well against mutas. Lings, though, might still be a problem. Not a lot of Lings here. Valkyries are forced to teleport back, but InZaNe very smartly only teleporting back 1. Still wants to get some damage done. Unfortunately, bad timing. Queens were here. Creep Spreaders already formed. Just like, seriously, the importance of Starbuck finding these run-bys cannot be overstated. The first one were being chased, and then Zane thought, oh, I don't need to worry about it anymore. Boom brings back an attack. This time, Lings temporarily get him to focus elsewhere, so he does lose a battle cruiser that didn't have teleport. This one does have teleport, should live, and he's gonna get a few queens. This is nice. It's not what he could have gotten. Okay, teleport didn't happen, so we're down to 1 battle cruiser. It's not so much about the battle cruisers anymore, sure, of course, but these things are such, I mean, they're honkers, right? Like, they have a lot of health, decently high armor just from the get-go, even with mutas out in the field, even with corruptors out in the fields. If you're teleporting away from their army, you're doing harassment, you're still getting value out of them. Instead now, looking rather valueless, as they kind of helped versus the all-in, right? And that was good. They didn't really get any more damage done. So 10 ACVs go down to what is only a small cluster of mutas, and there is the swap over to corruptors. Not really necessary anymore. Oh no. Well, I was gonna say taking out 1 battlecruiser is kind of like not, you know, highest on the list of priorities, but InZaNe goes back into battlecruisers. That might not work out. Tunneling Claws was on the way this entire time, so we see here coming into effect, but InZaNe, well, he added the missile turrets against the mutas, so Starbuck kind of played himself there. That was unfortunate. Loss of roaches for basically nothing. Hellion's looking for a run-by on what is going to be a stacked-up gold base. Doesn't quite find it. 5th base on the way, and while Starbuck was barely able to get the creep spread over to this base, just barely, not a lot of creep spread off to the left side, so that's going to be open opportunities, open hunting for not just Hellbats and Hellions, but definitely for these Cyclones, which once InZaNe gets a little more confidence in his 3-base setup, even 4-base setup, he'll be able to run forward and snipe bases. Thank you, Auto Douche. Oh no. Don't douche, guys. Don't do that. For the tier 1 sub. One muta left alone. The last of its kind. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, I didn't think about this. So Starbuck's been upgrading pretty consistently. You know, it was the +1 flyer attack, then it was the tunneling claws and pathogen glands, which was already done. He's got 2-1 about finished up here. InZaNe, ooh, not so much. He's been getting his priority upgrades, which is great. You know, Yamato and the Cyclone upgrade and now Blue Flame, but no... I don't know what we call the upgrade differences, guys. No +1 attacker armor. There we go. So the long game here is just survive, and it's not a bad call at all. This is, in fact, the correct call. If you're gonna sacrifice something, generally upgrades are the best thing to sacrifice. Maybe in some other situations, it's the best thing to get, actually, like +1 Carapace versus Banelings, but yeah, like, this is not a surprise, and it's not the wrong call. It means that he is going to be mostly defensive. Now, the good news is Cyclones with their magic damage don't benefit from the attack anyways, but they are going to get destroyed as as quick as you could expect, really, without any armor upgrades whatsoever. So he's going to have to be very careful never to get surrounded and really choose his battles wisely. Now, InZaNe, surprisingly, is going for more of an attack than I figured he would. I thought he was going to start just doing more, like, two-pronged attacks with blue flame Hellions and Cyclones. But he's maybe kind of puffing up his chest and doing that, like, be scared of me, be scared of me. Unfortunately for him, Starbuck's on 5 bases, 89 workers, and a decent army with spellcasters. Very important here, spellcasters. So he's not intimidated. He shouldn't be, really. 2 battlecruisers look intimidating, and he did not go for a lot of corruptors, or when he did, he lost them. So that might be something he has to fix here, but yeah, I think he could easily fix it. There we go, more corruptors as he loses a chunk of roaches. Oh, that's what happened. They turned into Broodlords with Doi. So, wow, we even have Neuroparasite on Cyclones. You don't see that very often. Alright, so no corruptors because there's so many Broodlords. That's a good trade-off. The battlecruisers, now seeing that there's no parasite, don't have the confidence to just be like, well, there's no hiders, there's no corruptors. Like, what am I scared here? No, you should be scared. There's no parasites. Looks like InZaNe will barely hold on here, and he is on 4 bases with more starports on the way. But losing a very extensive battlecruiser here. Maybe takes out a infestor. Oh, nicely done. Well, that's something. That's something. But that turned very awkward. Starbuck suddenly, you know, being pressured a little bit, suddenly comes forward with 2 very strong units in this particular composition battle, which is Infestors with Neural Parasite as well as Broodlords to make sure that the Cyclones don't get good lock-ons anyways. When Cyclones lock on to Broodlords or Corruptors or anything, right, they do a ton of damage, but if they're wasting their lock-ons on Broodlings, on Roaches, then suddenly they're not very helpful, and we all know what tanks look like against Broodlords, or I assume you all do. So that was a situation where he definitely had to retreat. Now he has to reevaluate how he engages this army, because honestly, as time goes on, we've seen a lot of late game mech players in decent positions end up fumbling because the army of the Zerg players simply looks stronger. I'm sorry, there I said it. I said it, guys. Before all the Zerg players are like, nah, typical Terran whiners, meh. But I'll say it and I'll mean it. We've seen a variety of late game Terran players, not just Europeans, for all the people that are like, well, this is foreigners, so they suck. No, we've seen Koreans do it as well. Gumiho, Alive, Bunny being the names I can think of. I think maybe once from Innovation. And we saw Marine Lord yesterday try it out on this map too. And as I said, it's been differences between being, you know, a good first start to the game, a bad start to the game, an amazing start to the game, like literally killing 20 drones at minute 5. And yet, if the Zerg player gets this composition, which, you know, kudos is called for when they survive those extreme situations. Point is, the army fights tend to go in favor of the Zerg players. It's mostly due with the spellcasters, but that's a lot of Cyclones to lose there. If you're really on point with Cyclones and Hellions, it's like using Bio, but with the, you know, then you subtract the Medivacs from it and suddenly they have a much tougher time getting through what could be dominating creep spread. Not the case here. There are openings for InZaNe to the left and to the right, but as you can see, one mistake, one getting too close to the army, and suddenly he loses 5 slow making, because they only produce 1 at a time now, and somewhat expensive units, even though InZaNe's going up to 5 bases. Now, thankfully, he is going up to 5 bases, because Starbuck's been on this high drone count with a decent number of hatcheries for a while, although note that his gold... Oh, he's south mining from the gold. Okay, never mind. So yeah, he's been on a strong economy for a while. Is starting to bank a little bit, and really starting to round out this composition, getting all of the upgrades here. And InZaNe still, meanwhile, struggling to get to 3-3. Hasn't even started it. But seriously, like, well done on using the battlecruisers. I thought they were going to be gone. All of them, like literally every single one, when we saw Corruptors on the way. But he managed to make them do something. They're still the most expensive harassment really ever, but, you know, it's better than nothing. Another hatchery coming over to the right side. These are the type of bases that InZaNe should be picking off with Cyclones. Especially because Starbuck is, for the most part, just leaving his army in a clump in the middle. This is exactly where that style of play would shine. But it's also exactly where you get the Zerg players go, well, you know, F it, and then they just move into you, and you're like, oh, right, I don't have an army. Okay, then. So it's, you know, it's tough. Life's a struggle. Then you die. Who's can't wait from a VCR's Kasumato? Because it was killing a queen or something. It wasn't important. Shut up. Same when I was 15. Okay, well, just as long as you don't try to convince people to douche, alright? We do have InZaNe using cyclones, but they're getting caught by the army, and now they're gonna get a hatchery because that's what they do best. That's probably not worth. Well, I mean, yeah. No, it's not like Starbuck is. Oh, close, so close. That was almost a really good idea. It's not like InZaNe is letting Starbuck get out of control, even though he's only getting so many good attacks with his cyclones. Like, Starbuck is being kept somewhat in check. That is a lot to do with the fact that he's upgrading so much, though, and perfecting a very expensive army, though. Like, it is now, at this time, when all of his upgrades are already on the way and almost done, really, that we see Starbuck's economy and bank really start to shoot through the roof. Here come the spellcasters, and that was so many Vikings, but now it's not so many Vikings. Not so healthy Vikings anyways. He finally splits them all. But that was a lot of damage for them to take. There is the option to land, but then they'll get fungled and they would die. So that was honestly the best anyone could really ask for. The Vikings not being a super reliable way to deal with it. But here's something I didn't talk about. EMPs blanket the infestor army, but there's literally so many infestors that some of them come away with energy anyways. I love the transition, and InZaNe did barely get enough of an economy to start that transition. Oh my good lord, he saves his planetary. Does he have building armor? He doesn't. And he saved that planetary? Sick. I don't know what the hell is going on here. So the tanks ended up trying to do a run by, but it was unsuccessful. Although, did it take out any infestors? They didn't have been lost, so maybe a couple. Maybe it was a decent trade in that, you know, value to value there, tank for infestor. But yeah, this was a very clutch hold, and InZaNe needs to be able to bank just as well as Starbuck does, really. But it's usually very hard to match the Zerg in that department. But he's got this base. Oh, that was in position correctly. That's weird. That doesn't happen. He's got that base coming up here, and once he's maxed out again, and InZaNe is, he could start adding on those extra building armor. Nice like auto tracking to help out here. But this is a strong composition against what Starbuck has. I'm going to applaud InZaNe here for thinking outside the box, for being able to get this far and able to afford ghosts, but you can see how difficult it is for them still. They got to go for the EMPs, and they got to EMP a lot of different units, even the queens to a degree. When they come forward, 10 at a time need to be EMP'd. But some EMPs did hit. The infestors are already somewhat low in energy from the beginning fight, from the first fight. Things aren't looking terrible to start with, but as we see, the Vikings is losing health a lot faster than the Corruptors. There's always a Spore Crawler line that Starbuck could fall back to, and ultimately his Broodlords ended up living. Even though most of his Corruptors died, his Corruptors are doing the job alongside the Casters, where InZaNe was barely keeping... Not even barely, actually. He was maxed out alongside Starbuck. We now see that supply plummets. And even if he was banking a ton, that is a lot to reproduce. Believe it or not, snipes are going down here. That's not what you want to see as a Zerg player, but the fungals have all been expended, I suppose. Or he simply doesn't care. Full round of SCVs on the planetary, even without building armor, is pretty good. Not gonna lie. Especially with Blue Flame Hellbats helping out. But even with InZaNe appropriately accommodating for the Broodling attacks, he had a lot of Blue Flame Hellbats to protect his ghosts, to protect his Cyclones. He just couldn't take